Welcome to another Gearwig Battle Report. A 35-point game between Bear's Legion of Everblight and Shawn's Retribution of Syra. Those faction names are too long. Shawn is bringing pVyros today. His battle group consists of a Phoenix and a Manticore. He's got a Mage Hunter Assassin there. He has a full unit of Sentinels, although he does not have the UA for the Sentinels. He's bringing regular pVyros, right there in the middle. He's bringing a full unit of Infiltrators, but again without a UA. Lastly, he's bringing one tape measure with flowers on it. Yeah! Bear is bringing epic eThagrosh. He's bringing a minimum unit of Reindeer Riders, who probably have an official name of some sort. He's bringing Maximus, all painted pink-like, looking good. Bringing two Angelises and Typhon. An army with a very low model count, and they're playing Incursion, and that'll come up. Bear deploys his Reindeer and Maximus down here at the bottom, forgetting that Maximus has Abomination, and also the Reindeer aren't fearless. But we didn't catch it either, so whatever. The Las Vegas over-under on rules that Bear breaks or forgets was set at 3.5. Bear deploys eThagrosh in his battle group up at the top like this. Shawn deploys Iris and his Infiltrators along the bottom. pVyros in his battle group right in the middle. His Assassin, as well as his unit of Sentinels, all Weapon Masters, are deployed along the top opposite Bear's meaty battle group. This game was played on the Steamroller scenario Incursion, with its 3 flags. We play a lot of Incursion and Close Quarters in our local meta, mostly because people don't have the Steamroller packet handy and aren't quite sure how to set up the zones for the other scenarios, or know how to use the new objective rules. Typically it's just easier to throw down a few flags and get the game started. With Close Quarters, you get a pretty typical game, where both armies meet in the middle and smash each other, and the army that gets smashed out the most usually loses one way or another. Incursion is a little different, and I like it a lot. Unlike previous Steamroller packets, none of the flags go away. All 3 stay the whole game, which means your army needs to be able to contest all 3 flags, starting on the second turn. This can be a problem at low point levels. It can be a real struggle for armies with low model counts like Bear's army here. New players often really struggle with Incursion. They think the game's going to last longer than it does, but they forget that you can score points on both your opponent's turn and your turn. An Incursion game can end really quickly if you don't have one of the flags covered. Bear starts by activating one of his Angelises and running it into the forest. His second Angelius also runs. Or flies, I guess. His Reindeer Riders activate and run. They position themselves in front of eThagrosh. eThagrosh activates. He advances up. He casts Dragon's Blood on the Reindeer Riders. This gives them +2 armor. Then he dumps some fury. Typhon activates next, and he runs as well. Maximus acts last and then runs. We forget about the Abomination rule again. I don't know if forgetting the same rule twice counts for the Las Vegas over-under. Shawn doesn't allocate any focus, and starts his turn by advancing his 2 warjacks. He's terrified of those two Angeliuses, so he's holding them back. The infiltrators go next and run. I've seen these guys in a lot of games lately, and they're cool. Gang solves a lot of problems, and having cheapo infantry with 2 attacks is pretty great. Shawn is looking forward to getting them the UA. That'll give them advanced deploy and let them jam like crazy. The assassin goes next. I think she could have made a charge against that Angelius in the front. Shawn decides to set her up for a turn 2 charge. pVyros goes next. He casts Hallowed Avenger on his Phoenix. He casts Inviolable Resolve on his Sentinels. He'll spend his last 2 to cast Mobility. His Jacks won't benefit from it this turn, but it will allow him to advance up further than usual. The Sentinels will activate and run. They'll try to hang out base to base with each other to get +2 armor from defensive line. Add that to the +2 they get from Inviolable Resolve, which is hard to pronounce, and they'll end up with 19 armor, which isn't bad. Iris activates last and hangs up behind the infiltrators. Bear manages his fury and decides to upkeep Dragon's Blood on his Reindeer Riders. No, Reindeer Riders. Yes, because Raptors makes it sound like they're birds or dinosaurs or something. No, my way's better. They activate and charge the infiltrators. By charging, they'll get an extra attack, a mount attack, since they're light cavalry. Unfortunately, Bear forgets to make the mount attacks after deciding to do this in the first place. So, if you're keeping track, the rules Bear breaks or forgets total is already up to 2. The over is looking auspicious. And he kills one of the infiltrators. Typhon activates and just advances in front of eThagrosh. eThagrosh activates. And he just sneaks behind a wall. Maximus activates and runs toward the middle. Bear only moves the Angelus up a little. He's afraid of the Weapon Masters. Neither player here is really page 5ing it very hard, but that's okay. Shawn starts his turn by activating pVyros. He casts Mobility to speed up his battle group. And then he advances behind his Sentinels. Now the infiltrators go, and they surround the Reindeer Riders. Thanks to their gang bonus and multiple attacks, they kick some butt. They destroy one Reindeer Rider, and then the second, and the last one as well. The Mage Hunter Assassin makes her big charge on the Angelus. I'd like to have seen her get closer here, then she could threaten with a free strike on the next turn. Retribution misses, she needed a 7. The Sentinels can't reach either Angelius, so they just shuffle forward a little bit. I'll play your tepid game of barely moving, says Shawn. The Warjacks activate next. Manticore advances forward, probably a little too far. And the Phoenix does as well. When Bear's reindeer died, he lost present on the bottom flag. He needs to rectify that now. Incursion is weird like this. You can feel like you're doing fine, but you're really way behind. eThagrosh cast Manifest Destiny, which is like Sign's Importance for melee attacks. Another dice drop effect. Totally making that catch on. He also uses his feet. He advances forward and casts Scourge, an AoE spell that knocks down every target it hits. He targets the Warjack in front of the Manticore. The attack roll hits. He's rolling dice minus 5 damage, so it does no damage. The Manticore and the nearby Sentinel are knocked down. The Angelius activates next. It charges the knockdown Manticore. His special attack is armor piercing and always hits like a truck against Warjacks. The Warjack's armor gets cut in half, so it goes down to 9. The attack will automatically hit, and the Angelius will be rolling dice plus 5 with dice drop, and does 14. A slightly darker die is a location die. He buys an additional attack that is no longer armor piercing, and does 8 damage. Buys another attack, this time doing 0 damage. And one last attack that does 2. The Manticore is crippled. Typhon advances forward toward the center flag and begins to make spray attacks. He can make 3 initial spray attacks. His first targets the Warjack and clips an infantry guy on each side as well. First attack misses a Sentinel. Second attack roll is for the spray that clips the Warjack. It misses as well. And the third attack roll is for the Infiltrator. It hits and automatically destroys the Infiltrator. The second initial spray attack is going to target the Sentinel in front of him, so it clips the knockdown Sentinel as well. Bear treats the attack on the knockdown Sentinel as an automatic hit, even though of course with a range attack you have to roll a 3 to hit, so that's broken rule number 3 if you're keeping track. And I totally am keeping track. Well, I don't know why I didn't pick up any of this as I was watching the game. I think I was tired or something. Either way, the spray attack kills both Sentinels. He makes an attack on the Warjack with that same spray, but that misses. After that attack resolves, the Phoenix can take its Hallowed Avenger charge and charges Typhon. But misses, and unfortunately brings him closer to the Angelius that activates next. That Angelius charges him, and he's going to do the same crazy high armor-piercing damage. Benefits from the Manifest Destiny dice drop and hits. It's rolling dice plus 5. And does 21 damage after dropping the die that dropped out of the dice tray. Big, big hit. The Angelius buys an additional attack that hits. No more armor piercing, so he's rolling dice minus 4 now. He boosts the damage. Drops the lowest die, does 11 damage. Maximus charges through the flag, past the crippled Phoenix, deeper into Shawn's army. He'll take a free strike from the Phoenix, but the Phoenix will only roll 1 die. If that die is a 6, and the free strike hits. Free strike's boosted, so he'll roll 2 dice, being crippled. And they're both 6s. Maximus is disabled and misses his tough roll. Now that all his models have activated, eThagrosh's feat goes off. Each member of his battle group can make an advance and one melee attack. Typhon advances around the Phoenix a little bit, makes an attack roll. We forget about Manifest Destiny, but it hits anyway. We remember to use the dice drop effect for the damage. It's only dice -1 and does 7 damage to the Phoenix, wrecking it. The Angelius shuffles around the knockdown Manticore, makes an attack that automatically hits, and rolls dice -4. It wrecks the Manticore. eThagrosh uses his feat movement to hide behind a wall. Bear's turn ends, and while he was able to destroy 2 heavy warjacked, he didn't address the flag at the bottom of the map. This is one of those weird incursion moments where the game can sort of get away from you. Even though Shawn hasn't even scored yet, Bear's running out of time. He's only going to have 2 more turns to address that flag problem, and he's going to spend one of those turns being jammed up by weapon masters. Experienced scenario players will learn to anticipate these bad spots as early as deployment. That way they don't have to react mid-game when the points start scoring, because then it's often too late. The Mage Hunter Assassin activates first and attacks the Angelius. There's probably a charge angle to be had here, and that's always important with the Assassin, since any damage she does is double. Any extra die is helpful. But she misses her attack roll anyway. The Infiltrators activate next, and they charge and run. 3 are able to charge Typhon. And all the rest run. Some are able to jam up the second Angelius, and the others just run behind the 3 that charged. The longer Shawn can keep the fighting up near the center, the more likely he is to just camp that bottom flag and win the game. The 6 attacks he makes on Typhon do a total of 8 damage. Iris advances up and grabs that flag, and alarm bells should be going off in Bear's head right now. And so forth. The Sentinels activate and charge both Angeliuses. The Sentinels are good at tearing down war beasts, but the Angelius defense of 14 can be a problem. Most of them are able to get the required 3-inch distance to roll the extra charge damage, but a few don't. Shawn begins making attack rolls. First one hits. Rolling dice -5 for 5 damage. A missed attack roll. Another miss. Another miss. This attack hits. And does 11 damage. Another attack hits. And does 5 damage. Another hit. That does 8 damage. The last attack hits for 4 damage. After all of that, both Angeliuses are still alive, but the one closest to pVyros is severely crippled, and the one at the top has its spirit crippled. Shawn might be disappointed that he didn't trade heavy for heavy here with Bear, but he's in a dominant scenario position thanks to this flag. Bear might not quite realize it yet, but he's only got 2 more turns before Iris wins on that flag. He's got to get a War Beast down there or set up an assassination before then. He activates eThagrosh, casts Manifest Destiny, and advances down by the Infiltrators. he opts to make spray attacks. He has reach, and we didn't bother to check at the time, but he's definitely in melee here, so these spray attacks are illegal. He's not like Typhon, where he has Gunfighter and can make them in melee. This is at least the 4th rule we've broken or forgotten, which means we win our Las Vegas overbet. Hooray! And I say we because I'm totally culpable at this point. I don't know what I'm doing here. Yikes. The worst thing is the sprays aren't even very efficient. If his melee attack had boxed one of these guys, it would have blown up and killed the nearby ones without having to roll to hit. Sprays look good when you put the template down, but you end up having to make a bunch of attack rolls against defense 15. Anyhow, he's able to kill one of them. He spends a Fury to heal the spirit of the one Angelius who wasn't super crippled. That Angelius starts making attacks against the sentinels nearby. The attack hits and damages. He buys another that hits and does damage. Hits again and damages again. Manifest Destiny really helps here, making all the attacks hit and damage. That's another reason why eThagrosh should have used a melee attack instead of those illegal sprays. After all that, all the nearby infantry are dead. Typhon activates and makes spray attacks. He's Bear's closest contesting model to that Iris flag. He probably should have trampled here to get close to it. He misses all those spray attacks because those guys are defense 15 and sprays just don't work well against them, and starts buying melee attacks instead. He's able to kill 2 and force a command check that they pass. Iris scores again. Bear checks to see if his Angelius at the top is scoring, but the Sentinel contests. If Bear had somehow been able to grab these 2 flags this turn, he would have put the pressure back on Shawn, but instead he'll need to assassinate next turn. The Infiltrators attack first. They knock a couple points off of Typhon and bring the lower Angelius down to 3 boxes, which is unfortunate because if they had killed it, the Sentinels could have charged the other Angelius. Instead, the Sentinels activate and finish the Angelius off in 1 hit. pVyros is camping 5 focus, all but the one he used to upkeep Invulnerable Resolve. He advances forward inexplicably, and then Shawn ends his turn. All he has to do is survive next turn without Bear contesting the bottom flag or killing his caster, and he wins. eThagrosh advances on the Infiltrators. We remember to force the Abomination check that we should have used last turn. I've honestly lost track of all the rules we've forgotten. This time we get it, but they pass their check. He dispatches them easily with melee attacks, though. Typhon activates and advances right into that mess of infantry. I thought this was an assassination attempt and he'd try a desperate spray over the top. But I'm not sure it was even mathematically possible with pVyros camping all that fury. He would have needed 10s to hit and rolled dice minus something awful. 8 or something. Anyhow, he spends his fury on melee attacks and kills most of the Sentinels. The Angelius charges the last Sentinel. There's a point in this turn where I think neither player realized that Iris was going to score at the end of this turn and next to end the game. Bear was removing models and Shawn was looking glum. They only had a couple left, but the game was effectively over here. I wasn't sure as a camera guy if I should be pointing that out at the time. I make an effort to be impartial when I'm filming. I fail in that effort. I'm always pointing out this and that and little rules and stuff people forget, stuff I forget. Ugh, it's the worst. It's really annoying to have around when you're trying to play a game. And if you want me around when you're trying to play a game, check out Gearwig.com and schedule a filming session. I travel all over the New England area. Shawn realizes he can just end his turn, grab a control point, and win, and decides to charge eThagrosh for some fun. Let's ignore all that and discuss Incursion. A lot of people don't like the new version with the 3 flags. They don't like games that end this way, with one opponent grabbing control points early and camping the flag for 2.5 rounds and winning like that. And while that ending can be really disappointing, you can only lose that way so many times before you start to change tactics. This is where I really like Incursion. I like that it makes you think about your tactics during deployment. Not only do you have to plan to contest all 3 flags during your deployment, you have to analyze what matchups you can expect when you get to that flag. If the model or unit you assign to contest the bottom flag is going to get rolled over by the opponent's unit that matches up really well against it. You have to adjust to that early rather than later. You can't wait till they start scoring points like we saw here. When you bring tactical thinking early to the game, to an incursion scenario, and your opponent doesn't, you have a decided advantage over that opponent. And this advantage leads to a win, particularly a win against an opponent who has a much better list than yours. This can be a very rewarding experience. That's why I've really grown to like this scenario. Thank you for watching. For more War Machine videos and updates, check out Gearwig.com. You can email me at boss@gearwig.com or check out our Facebook or Twitter page. Please subscribe to this channel to help us out. And thanks.